What's up everyone? Welcome back to Nebula Tech News. Today I'm going to review the Fitbit Sense. This is the newest in the Fitbit line of fitness trackers, which they're actually calling a health watch instead of a smartwatch. This watch comes in two colors. This is the lunar white and soft gold, and it also comes in carbon graphite stainless steel, which is pretty much just black. This watch comes in at a solid $329.95, which I believe is actually Fitbit's most expensive watch to date. But I'm going to go over my couple of weeks using this watch, and I will let you guys decide if it is worth that price tag with all of the added new sensors in here. So let's start with how visually appeasing this watch is. So in terms of the looks and the feel of the watch itself is very sleek. It is kind of shaped like an Apple Watch, a bit with this kind of rounded square design. And it's a very simple design because it only has one tactical button here on the side. So it's not a physical button, but you do hard press to use it as a button. It is generally very comfortable to wear because it's so slim and it doesn't kind of protrude too much off of your wrist. So it doesn't feel like you're wearing this big clunky thing. With one exception, the one thing that I really didn't like about this was the original band, which is here. These are very common for smartwatches, so it's like the kind of rubbery bands that they usually use. I hate these so much. They just are horribly uncomfortable. They like pinch your skin all the time. These are terrible. So I picked up a really cheap aftermarket band. This cost about 10 bucks on Amazon and actually was pretty good. So I did use a different band because that original one is horrible, but it is a waterproof watch. So if you want it to continue that way and not mess up this mesh band, then you probably get something similar to this. So moving on, we should definitely talk about all of the sensors in this new Fitbit Sense. Because this time around they really weren't playing any games and they're packing a ton of really cool sensors in here. So they do have sleep tracking, they have an electrodermal activity sensor, they have a heart rate monitor, an ECG, an oxygen sensor, a skin temperature sensor, and all of this is wrapped up in this really simple looking body, but they call it a biosensor core, where every single one of these sensors lives. Now, one quick thing to note before I get super into the bells and whistles here, some of the features that I just named may or may not be available in every country. I'm in the US right now, so all of these features that I mentioned do work here, but I was on a forum for Fitbit recently and a lot of people were mentioning that like in Australia or other parts of the world, that they didn't have access to all of these features and that they wouldn't be released by Fitbit for those countries. So make sure that you guys check online to be sure that the features that are super important to you are going to be available in your country before you buy this. So with that little PSA out of the way, let's get into some of the details about these trackers. So sleep tracking insights are great. They've had sleep tracking for a while, but they kind of changed the way that the insights will show up for you. They changed the UI a little bit to make it easier to read and understand. Those are pretty great. The stress tracking, I think, is accurate. It's kind of hard to tell because there were days that I didn't feel very stressed, but it told me that I was stressed apparently. The heart rate monitoring works just as great as it did before. ECG was actually promised on this watch when it was out for pre-order, and they promised that it would be out in October, and they delivered on that promise. ECG is available now via an app. You've got an ECG app. It works really great. I've compared it to my other smartwatches with ECG. I haven't had any variations. And I'm really happy that they delivered on their promise of that as well, because, you know, some companies don't always do that. The SpO2 sensor was not my favorite, mainly because you have to have a specific watch face in order to be able to use it, which I felt like was kind of dumb. It could have just been integrated like all the other sensors. I don't see why you have to have that specific watch face to use it. And then the skin temperature sensor was okay. It also wasn't my favorite because you have to have like a baseline. You have to have an actual thermometer to get a baseline temperature for yourself, and in the middle of COVID it's very hard to find a thermometer to do that, so it was a little bit wonky, but it seemed to work okay. It could tell my temperature variations from day to day, and it also tracked it in my sleep to tell me how much my temperature varied while I was asleep, so that was actually pretty cool. but it would have been better if it could just read your baseline temperature on its own. Now I want to move on to one of my favorite things to talk about for smartwatches, which is battery life. So I did wear this watch nonstop for my battery life test. If you guys haven't watched that video yet, I will link it down below. Be sure to check it out. It's pretty cool. And it actually performed really well. I did get about 7 to 8 days of battery life total, and that included workouts, walks, running errands, which obviously involves more fitness tracking for the watch. I noticed that the battery did hold up pretty well throughout a lot of that, and I did have some heavier workout days, and the battery didn't go down as much as I expected it to, which was pretty great. It also charges way faster than previous models, where I was able to get a full charge in just around an hour or so. But Fitbit also says that you can get a full day's charge in just 12 minutes. I have tracked the full battery charge, and I can usually charge the battery from 0 to 100 in about an hour or so. So that's actually a pretty great thing. Fitbit has also added the Google Assistant and Alexa in the Fitbit sense, which brings it a little bit more into the smartwatch arena. They also have Spotify and Pandora here, which is pretty cool. These are all super convenient things to have on your watch. And they also added now a way to pay right from your wrist with Fitbit Pay. Overall, this was a pretty interesting experience with this health watch. It definitely helped me get a better and in-depth look at all my different health metrics, and it made it super easy for me to keep on top of my general well-being. Personally, I do feel like the price point of $330 is a bit high considering that it isn't a full-blown smartwatch, and also that certain countries may not have access to all of the promised features. So that's my one complaint, is that I do think it's a bit expensive for what you're getting, but everything does work really well in this watch. And I did get a lot more insight on my health than I traditionally have gotten with my other smartwatches. So just something to consider. So that is all for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, just drop them down below in the comments, and I'll try to help with anything I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.